What's up, college sports fans? I'm Stuckey.
I'm Colin Wilson.
I'm Mike Calabrese.
I'm Maria Marino.
I'm Charlie DiSturco, and we're excited that the Big Bets on Campus brand is launching its very own YouTube channel.
You'll be able to find every episode of the BBOC podcast, live shows, and other college sports content on this new channel.
Not only will the channel be dedicated to betting on college sports, but you'll also be able to find exclusive interviews with former college athletes,
college football power rankings,
and updates on other topics like the brand new College Football 25 video game series and the ins and outs of the recruiting trail all the way down to the transfer portal.
Whether you're into college football,
college basketball,
college baseball, or any of the college sports,
we are the home for college sports, and BBOC is the channel for you.
Make sure you subscribe so you don't miss any of the action. I'll see you there.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Fantasy Flex podcast from the Action Network and Fantasy Labs. I'm your host, Chris Raybon, and I'm joined by one of the most accurate fantasy football rankers in the industry, the odds maker, Sean Kerner. Sean, how's it going?
What's up? Had a really good week one of preseason. I believe I went like 8-5 on sides and totals and like something like 18-6 on props. So had a really fun opening weekend.
Wow, I don't even know how you found 24.
well, okay. So, I mean, I treat every quarter of every game as its own game. You know, a lot of these players are only playing a quarter. And on Saturday, they had like a bunch of like just veteran receivers with a prop of like, let's say 19.5 receiving yards. And so I had a ton that were just like, just take the under 19.5 receiving yards. And it was guys that are just going to play like one drive, and they're probably not going to see 3 catches. So that was like 6 of my props. And the rest were just, you know, I'm just doing projections for all these players that I noticed they were, quite a few yards off. So always have fun taking props in preseason because, you know, there's a wide range of outcomes. But it makes these games way more exciting, you know, sweating the fourth quarter with these like 4-stringers. We'll never see play in a regular season game, but it's always fun watching preseason with some sweats going on.
Yeah, I just got through watching every single snap of all 16 of those games.
Whoa.
I should have had some more action on them, but I like to take the first week and kind of just really dig in and not distract myself as much because I do kind of make some updates based on that. So it was good to see a bunch of guys and see some rotations. Yeah. But on this episode, we're going to do our annual rookie wide receiver draft for fantasy. I will recap our draft from last year, and then we'll hop right in. But before we do, just want to quickly remind everyone that our 2024 Fantasy Football Draft Kit available right now over on FantasyLabs.com. You can find all of our rankings. Remember, we're both top 5 most accurate at Fantasy Pros over the last 3 seasons. You can find our projections, all of that good stuff at FantasyLabs.com. Plus, you can get $20 off by using the promo code FLEX20. That's FLEX20 when you sign up at FantasyLabs.com/flex. And today's episode, we're going to dive into wide receivers. We'll draft 10 each, and we'll go by ADP. So whoever gets the most spots above, or, you know, even if it's below, whoever does the best versus ADP, that will be the winner. So last year, your receivers did outscore mine by some 200 odd points, not about 150, but in terms of ADP, I was plus 128 and you were plus 28. So that's the kind of the game theory of these kind of drafts. It's, you know, trying to find some of those low down guys who, you know, you risk getting a 0 and then you're at, you know, the last player ranked, which is like, you know, 190 something, or for a receiver, it's like in the 200s. But if you go too high, like, you know, Marvin Harrison, he's already like wide receiver 13 or something. Yeah. You don't really have much to gain. So there is some game theory here. I think this is really good for, you know, people trying to find late round flyers, especially in best ball. But last season, you started off Marvin Mims at wide receiver 90 ADP, so that was a minus 59. I went Rashee Rice, so that was nice, plus 39 for me because he was a wide receiver 66. Then you hit with Jordan Addison. I whiffed with Quentin Johnson. You hit with Jaden Reed, wide receiver 76. That was a plus 53. But overall, just a bunch of kind of like low guys who like beat their ADP by a little bit for me or didn't lose it by too much, ended up giving me the win. But I thought you were going to win it because you had like Tank Dell. You even had Nakua. Like, yeah, I don't know how you lost with Nakua.
I know. I think we just both did good. And it's kind of a lesson where I think running back, like, we both ended up like minus a ton of ADP.
Mm-hmm.
Wide receiver, we both ended up up a ton. It just goes to show that maybe, rookie wide receivers are offering more value. That's kind of the takeaway I'm getting from just looking at this. And like I had some gambles like Marvin Mims that didn't pan out, but he kind of should have. They didn't use it much. But we had a lot of big hits, and that's kind of the takeaway is this year's class is probably even better. It's deeper, so we might find some, really good values today as well.
Yeah, exactly. And we're going to go 20 deep. Looks like I'm up first. I think you're up first in the running back pod. So I'll start it off here. And with the first pick of the 2024 Fantasy Flex wide receiver rookie draft, let's go with Jordan Whittington, undrafted Los Angeles Rams, had a big first week. The Rams and finding these day 3 wide receivers. He was a 6th round pick out of Texas. So everybody who doesn't have an ADP will get a wide receiver 111. So,
okay.
You have a lot to gain there, but if they don't play, you're still going like minus, 150 or something like that. So it's a little bit of a risk with Whittington. There was somebody else I had my eye on that does have an ADP, but I think Whittington, 9 targets on 24 routes. Always love to see that. Caught 6 for 74, 4 of 4 on contested catches. And, Sean McVay was saying, I really like him. He's going to be a factor for us this year. Tutu Atwell was a guy who, he was initially their number 3 receiver last year. He ended up getting benched for Demarcus Robinson. And so Atwell down the stretch was playing anywhere from, 0 to 20% of the snaps. So now, Whittington really has to jump Atwell and Demarcus Robinson. But given that Robinson didn't take over till week 11, week 12, and Atwell wasn't really playing once he did, I think there is a path here. And it's kind of like, remember the Steelers, maybe a decade or so ago when it just seemed like every year they were finding some diamond in the rough wide receiver. The Rams seem like that team that's doing that now. So I'm going to take my chances with Jordan Whittington here. I'm hoping at least he could settle in as the number 4 wide receiver. So, at wide receiver 111, I might still be able to kind of draw even if he doesn't hit. So give me Whittington, the 6th rounder out of Texas.
Yeah, I like it. And I like the game theory too. I had him pretty high in my draft rankings, not going to lie. Like you said, the Rams always find these diamonds in the rough, like Puka last year. It's also worth noting that like in preseason, Sean McVay doesn't take preseason seriously, so you'll see these guys go off like, Lance McCutcheon. A couple years
he could
ago.
be the next Lance McCutcheon too.
He could
right?
be. Yeah, he's going to be somewhere between Lance McCutcheon and Puka Nacua, which is a wide range of outcomes. But I'm going to take the game theory in this contest a little bit more seriously. So I kind of know what you're doing here with taking him at wide receiver 11. So
111. Now, if he finishes wide receiver 11, the Rams are going to pretty much win the Super Bowl.
Obviously.
All right. So you're up. You got the second pick. Where are you going?
Oh man, this is tough. So I'm probably going to go with. I'm going to go with Jermaine Burton here.
That was who I was thinking. Love it.
Yeah, like again, he could end up being the number 4 wide receiver, not get much playing time, and finish out to the top 100. That's kind of a lot of guys in this range, but I think he does have the most realistic path to make like being a top 50 receiver. I'll say that's kind of the goal here. And the Bengals got him in the 3rd round, mainly due to off-field concerns, but he has the talent to go a round or 2 earlier. So I love this landing spot. He's competing right now with Andre Yosevich for the number 3 role. I love Yosevich as well. But, with Tyler Boyd gone, someone's going to be the number 3 receiver. I think both of these receivers will see a boost next year if T. Higgins moves on in free agency, which seems likely. So I just like his upside at the ADP here. He could win the number 3 job. And if, Jamar Chase or T. Higgins ever miss time, like he could be the number 2 target that week in the offense. So I like his path to hitting, inside the top 50 his rookie season. He has the talent to do it. He has the situation to do it. He might need some luck, maybe an injury or 2 to the wide receivers. But I think at, wide receiver 80, definitely like his floor ceiling combo here.
Yeah, that's who I was thinking of going with if I didn't go with Whittington, because I could definitely see Burton, giving you like a plus 35, plus 40 or something. Yeah. Finishing as like a wide receiver 4, especially Joe Burrow. He's always a threat to throw 40 plus touchdowns in a season. And Burton went 3 for 82 with a tutty in that first preseason game. So great start for him. Did the little snow angel on the ground in the end zone. One of my favorite celebrations. So yeah, love Burton. And I think it might be, start the year, you might see a rotation, but I think Burton's clearly the guy with the most, untapped talent, I think. And then Yosevich probably second. So I'm hoping, what's his name? Trenton Irwin. He's like our Samaje Perine of wide receivers. Like, just get him out of here. Like, I'm happy for him. He carved out a little career for himself, but come on, man.
If I never have to lose on a Trent Irwin under 1.5 reception prop for the rest of my life, I will die happy. So I agree. I hope they just phase him out completely.
All right. For the 3rd overall pick of our 2024 Fantasy Flex rookie wide receiver draft, I'm going to keep going with the game theory here. Keep taking these risks. Another undrafted wide receiver by ADP, so give him a 111, and that's Malik Washington out of Miami. 6th rounder out of Washington, has 4.47 speed, 96 percentile bursts, saw him pop a 21-yard run in that first preseason game, and was targeted on a quarter of his routes. And I think the key here is Odell Beckham Jr. We talked about this. I don't know if this guy is ever going to be the same. He's hurt again, reportedly. So the Dolphins might be looking for a number 3 wide receiver to start the year. Remember, Cedric Wilson, who was filling that role at times last year, is in New Orleans, and Braxton Berrios, he's still there. But Washington is kind of like, he's similar size to Berrios and younger, a little more explosive at this point. So I think if he's going to have 2 more games, if he can, show out, I think there's a chance that Washington could end up jumping Berrios on that depth chart, especially while Odell Beckham is out. So there's a path for Washington, at least in some games this year, to be the number 3 wideout on Miami. And that's all you want in these kind of picks is you have Tua, who, led the league in passing. You have a speedy Dolphin skill player and a Mike McDaniel offense. I mean, we did it with, who was it, Achane last year. We're doing it with Jalen Wright this year. Give me Malik Washington as well. I think he could have some sneaky value.
Yeah, you definitely screwed me over this pick. I was going to take him next. And this you probably picked up from watching every preseason snap how good he looked. He made some good returns. He had a nice 20-plus yard run. This is one of the props I lost. I had over 20-something receiving yards. He was open downfield, and it was either Skylar Thompson or Mike White overthrew him, but he was open. So I had my eye on him. I agree. I think there's a path for, becoming the number 3 receiver here. So love this pick. I was going to go with him next.
All right. Where are you going? You got the 4th overall, 2nd for you.
Yeah. Man, I was definitely going to take him. I don't know if I'm going to stick with that approach. I'm going to go with Jalen McMillan at wide receiver 88. Similar situation. He's potentially the favorite right now to be the number 3 wide receiver for the Buccaneers. He's battling out with Trey Palmer to see who, becomes the number 3 receiver. Palmer was solid as a rookie, but he was, 6th round prospect, where McMillan, 3rd round talent. He's had a great camp, looked pretty good in limited action over the weekend. So I think that right now I would lean him to open up as the number 3 receiver. And their new offensive coordinator, Liam Cohen, is from the Sean McVay coaching tree. So we could just see more 3 wide receiver sets to begin with the Buccaneers, which, helps McMillan and Palmer at the same time. So I think that there's a path there for him to clear his, wide receiver, 88 ADP just by, meeting expectations this year. But there's obviously upside for more. So I kind of like his floor ceiling combo here.
Yeah, and it looks like they're going to play Godwin more in the slot this year. So McMillan and Palmer were playing on the outside, and they both kind of left after that first, when the first team, obviously Evans and Godwin didn't play, but when the first team exited, they were out. Like they didn't really keep playing or anything. So yeah, they're number 3 and 4. It's just what order. Maybe it flip flops all year, but I agree. I think it's almost 50-50 at this point, and McMillan does have the higher pedigree. Now, Palmer, wasn't he the guy that we said you don't want to make him angry or something? Like every time
I know, right?
Yeah, so I mean that's the one worry.
Exactly.
Yeah,
they drafted him to light a fire under his ass, but he scored a touchdown every game that he tweeted out he was pissed off. He scored a touchdown that game. That was the trend from last year.
Yeah, so but I agree. I think McMillan is a good pick and could definitely beat his ADP. And I think that's kind of, if you're not going with these undrafted guys, I think that's the sweet spot when you kind of get outside the top, 60 wide receivers into that, 70, 80, 90 range. Because you can kind of land in the 60s or 70s and still get some nice value there. All right, for the 5th overall pick of our Fantasy Flex 2024 rookie wide receiver draft, my 3rd pick, I'm gonna keep rolling with these undrafted guys. Got a bunch. Let's go with my dude Casey Washington for the Falcons. Targeted on 9 of 27 routes in that first game. Looked like the best wide receiver in the game. The production wasn't crazy. Only caught 3 balls. But remember, Rondale Moore, who the Falcons traded for, season-ending injury. So that depth chart behind London and Darnell Mooney wide open. It looks like Ray McCloud is penciled in as a starter. So there's definitely, snaps to be had. And the fact that Mooney can play the slot or outside means, a guy like Washington can kind of ascend potentially even into a top 3 role on this team. And the thing I like about it is this Falcon offense is going to look a lot different schematically this year, and it's going to benefit wide receivers. So last season, on average, the Falcons had about 2 wide receivers per run a route per pass play. Because remember, Jonnu Smith, Kyle Pitts, Cordell Patterson even, they always had, backs and tight ends. Well, under this new coaching staff for the Falcons, it's going to be pretty much 1-1 personnel. You have Zach Robinson, another McVay disciple. And, while he was in LA, 2.9 on average wide receivers per pass play, which means almost every play they're running either 1-1 or, they're having 4 wide or even 5 wide receivers on the field. And in that first preseason game, the Falcons averaged about 2.9 wide receivers per pass play. So that is a stark difference from what we've seen under Arthur Smith. And then now you got Kirk Cousins and Penix, I think, gives him some upside as well, because even if Cousins doesn't pan out or gets hurt or whatever, you still got a decent backup. You're still playing indoors, and there's snaps to be had. So this is another one where a little bit of a risk, but I think if Ray McCloud, I don't think Ray McCloud's going to play 80-90% of the snaps for the entire season. So I think at some point Washington may be able to kick Mooney inside and draw some starts on the outside for a pretty solid offense. All right, number 6. Where you going?
Well, I'm gonna have to put an end to this shit. I'm gonna have to take some guy that doesn't have an ADP.
Yep.
I'm just thinking, which guy would you take next that I would kind of be mad about? So I'm gonna just go with him, and that's Johnny Wilson of the Eagles. He is a giant. He's 6'6", 231 pounds. And the Eagles have a wide open competition right now for the number 3 role. So there's a chance, he doesn't get it, and he, doesn't see a catch this year, but it's between him, Paris Campbell, John Ross is involved.
Mm-hmm.
Ionis
straight out of
Smith.
retirement.
Yeah. So he has a path, and he's doing pretty good. I think he got one catch in his
one catch for 7 yards or something. It wasn't great, but yeah, he's definitely in the running for that number 3 wide receiver job.
Yeah, and he made an excellent block. That's one thing he could do. That gets him on the field, right? That's all we're asking for. And so like I think he has a shot to win the number 3 role here, if not by week 1, potentially some time in season, or if injuries pop up, he'll be right there. He could be like a red zone threat too. I mean, he's massive. He could be the wide receiver version of Jody Fortston, where he catches 3 balls for 2 touchdowns on the season. I'm not asking for much. I just need him to finish inside the top 110 here. So out of the rest of the guys, I'm really interested to see if there's anybody else from this mix you think might be worth the wide receiver 111. But he's probably the next best bet, I think, outside of this range.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. That was pretty much the last guy I had tabbed there, but I figured I better start with those guys because that's how I kind of stole the win from you last year, even though you had some massive hits. I was just kind of solidly, getting those guys that beat it. Oh, actually, no, there's one more. Okay. I'll take him now. And this is one, I think he's a little bit riskier. But I thought he looked good, and I do know he will at least be active each week because I believe he's going to be the primary kickoff returner, and that's Anthony Gould for the Indianapolis Colts. And to start the year, he actually might be the number 4 wide receiver if Downs misses any time. So, he's got 4.4 speed, just under 4.4 speed, had a 49-yard kick return. Probably settles in as the wide receiver 5, so I don't expect too much, but he could turn a couple of big plays, and he's always going to be a threat for 6 on the with the new kickoff return rules. So I like Gould. I thought he looked good. A little bit riskier than some of the others because I don't really think he has a path to like a top 3 role because you have Adonai Mitchell, you have Pittman. I mean, maybe if Downs is really banged up and lost for the year and Pierce struggles, maybe he factors in. But more so, I think his ceiling is the Colts wide receiver 4 at best and probably the number 5. But like the talent, like the speed, and anytime I could get some extra cracks with the kickoff return, I'll take it. So a little riskier, but like Anthony Gould here, the 175-pounder out of Oregon State. He was a 5th-round pick, 142nd overall.
Nice. Yeah, I love the angle with the kickoff return potential. I think we only saw like one really good return from the kickoff, but maybe
Washington, right? Parker Washington, I think it was.
Yeah. Who knows?
74-yarder.
Yeah, who knows if the kicking team or the returning team are kind of not showing their hand yet, but so far there haven't been that many big returns. But do like that angle if you think he's going to be returning all their kickoffs. Definitely a way to go here.
All right, you're up with your 4th pick, the 8th pick overall of our 2024 Fantasy Flex rookie wide receiver draft. Where are you going?
Okay, I think I'm going to keep attacking this like 70 to 80 range. I'm going to go with, this is tough. I think all these guys have a pretty low floor, but I'm going to go with Troy Franklin at wide receiver 73. This could be similar to my Marvin Mims disaster from last year. Similar play, same team, right? But Franklin, I think he's a little better prospect than Marvin Mims. He's extremely fast, can win downfield, and his skill set sort of overlaps with Marvin Mims quite a bit. But I think he has a better chance to be a more complete receiver, though. And he already has a ton of chemistry with Bo Nix. They played with each other at Oregon. So I think that's going to help him out as a rookie. And really, after Cortland Sutton, this depth chart is fairly wide open. I guess you could say Josh Reynolds has his role. But, Franklin will be in direct competition with Mims. Tim Patrick, I haven't heard much about him in camp yet. So that's
what?
Probably...
You haven't heard?
What?
Tim Patrick played 11 of 12 snaps with the first team offense. He's their number 2 receiver right now.
Oh, okay. Well, we'll see.
Tim Patrick is back.
Okay.
For now.
All right.
For now.
All right. I had been going over 1,000 different player notes. I think I did remember seeing that at some point, but week one, I have so much week one preseason brain fog right now. You have to forgive me.
That's what I'm here for. This is all fresh.
But
and the Broncos were like miserable to project, by the way. So like, have fun.
Oh,
with
you're
this,
telling me.
Oh man, but yeah, keep talking to me about Franklin.
No, I just think that he certainly has a path. I think that the experience with Knicks certainly helps him as a rookie. And, Marvin Mims, I was kind of high on him last year. He did not impress. He had every opportunity to really take over, a top 3 role. Didn't get it. So, I'm down on him. And I think by proxy, I'm high on Franklin. So I think that Franklin will sort of be what I thought Marvin Mims was going to be last year, which I think Marvin Mims really tanked me in this contest last year. Right? I took him first overall.
Yeah.
Wide receiver 90 didn't pan out. So I'm kind of, countering that this year by taking Franklin. I think he does have a much, much better rookie season than Mims did last year.
So this is interesting because I was actually very high on Franklin earlier in the offseason, and he actually was one of my like fallers after watching the preseason, only because so with the first team it was Cortland Sutton, obviously. Tim Patrick played 11 of 12 snaps. Mims played 1 of 12. Then he came back in the game and was playing with like the third team. Reynolds also played 7 of 12. So they were just using like this big lineup, but Stidham started. So I don't know if that what that had to do with anything, but Franklin, I was disappointed because you had Sutton, Patrick, Reynolds, Mims, Humphrey, Devon Vele, the what was he, a 7th round pick? All of those guys got in the game before Franklin, so that was the only thing that I was a little worried about. But I thought he was going to be a lot more involved, but I'm a little worried about Franklin now, only because there's like 8 or 9 guys seemingly in competition for roster spots, and he was like playing last out of all of them. So that's something to monitor here. But I agree. In theory, he has that chemistry. It's a wide open depth chart. But yeah, Tim Patrick probably is going to get a season-ending injury any day now. So yeah, right. I don't wish that on him. I'm just
right.
Just
been back-to-back years, unfortunately.
Yeah. But yeah, this is like when I saw he played 11 out of 12, it's either one of those things where like they're gonna play him a lot and then just cut him, and or like he's really like the number 2 wide receiver on some, like, what was it, a couple years ago, and he's like, oh yeah, KJ Osborne is just coming from out of nowhere. He's gonna play like 85% of the snaps. So this Denver team is, good luck, have fun. Yeah, let me know where you end up.
Well, this is a good lesson of just like how much should we take away of the first week of preseason. I think it's obviously, silly to overreact, but also like we did just have a week of information. It's also foolish to just completely ignore it. I am impartial to like Franklin specifically because it's, their depth chart's kind of a mess. I'm, disappointed he didn't play much, but they did trade up.
Oh no, he played. He just didn't get in the game early. He played.
No, that's what I don't know what I just said, but trust me, I projected every player in this game. I thought he was going to play earlier in the game.
Yeah.
The fact that he did it, I wouldn't, downgrade him that much. It would have been a great sign if he did mix in with the starters a bit more, but they traded up to get him. Mm-hmm. They took him in the 4th round, so I wouldn't be that worried quite yet. We'll see, like, week 2, we'll see more of Knicks and Stidham and see how that shapes out. But, not a great week 1 showing, but again, I'm not completely off him as a talent. So I take your point, but we'll see how it shakes out this week.
Yeah, there were a bunch of guys in that range that, like in this ADP range in the 70s, that I was higher on, and just like this offseason has just not gone well for them. I won't name them in case you're gonna take them. I'd rather let you take them, but let's see. So we are up to pick number 9. I think this is a good time to take a shot at Adonai Mitchell of the Colts. He's wide receiver 66, so he's a little bit higher So a little riskier here, but the Colts kind of platoon their tight ends, and Josh Downs, great receiver, but a little bit banged up, and he was banged up last season, and he's on the smaller side. Adonai Mitchell, he was a pretty early round pick. I think he has the talent to be the number 2 wide receiver on this team at some point this season, as soon as this season. And he was playing in the slot, so essentially, learning how to take Downs' reps. So that tells me they want him on the field, regardless of where it is. So he was battling Alec Pierce initially for that third wide receiver role. And I heard Pierce was holding his own, but the fact that now they're playing him inside outside, that's something that Pierce doesn't really do. Pittman does it a little bit. Downs can do it. And now Mitchell. So I think that's ultimately what the Colts want, is to have, those 3 guys as their top 3. And the fact that I feel like I'm getting a little bit of a bonus here with Downs potentially questionable for week number 1. So give me A.D. Mitchell at wide receiver 66.
Yeah, I mean, it's really crowded wide receiver room, but he his specialty is big playability. He's pretty similar to George Pickens in a lot of ways. So he might not even need that many targets to hit value. So just the fact that it's a crowded wide receiver room might not impact him as much. He's also a guy that would get a boost if Joe Flacco were ever to have to make starts too. So that gives him a nice floor, I guess. But yeah, he's a guy that this ADP might be tough to clear, but I think all these guys at this point, it's going to be tough for them to clear the ADP in a technical sense.
Yeah. I'm just betting on talent here. I actually like the talent with this guy, and he's got 4.3 speed. He's 6'4", 196. He again can play inside, outside, day 2 pick. So a lot to like with him. So yeah, just betting on the talent here. But I agree. I think that's the ADPs are starting to creep up a little bit. But where are you going with pick number 10? Your 5th.
Yeah. So I'm with you now. Less about playing the game. I'm just betting on talent at this point and opportunity. That's why I'm gonna have to go with Brian Thomas Jr. of the Jacksonville Jaguars at wide receiver 48. I had mentioned that reception perception. Matt Harmon had compared him to DK Metcalf, which I can certainly get behind. I think that's a good comp. But I was saying I see shades of Randy Moss. Not saying he's going to be a first ballot Hall of Famer, but he can make plays, and we saw that. He had that amazing, 44-yard catch from C.J. Beathard, I believe it was from. And that was just a glimpse of, I think, his big playability is going to be useful as a rookie. And I think he's a way to invest in Trevor Lawrence finally making a breakout in, what is it, year 5 now? So I think that
year 4.
Year 4. Oh, geez, feels like 5.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think at wide receiver 48, he has the talent and the situation to clear that without needing an injury or luck or anything. So I think that he's a safer bet in this range, and I think that he absolutely has top 30 upside if he were to figure it out as a rookie. So I think just based on this game, and if I'm in a draft, wide receiver 48 is a great time to take someone like Brian Thomas Jr.
Yeah, and I actually have him right like wide receiver 45 or 6 in my rankings. I think we talked about this, but I think the Jaguars are a little bit underrated across the board at wide receiver, because those guys, another team that runs a lot of 1-1 personnel, and they're not going to sub in guys a ton. So if Thomas can get that week 1 starting job, which I think he's well on the way to, him and Gabe Davis, I think they're both a little bit undervalued because I think Davis kind of takes that one of those outside roles, and Thomas takes the other one. Used to see Zay Jones and Calvin Ridley, or before that it was Zay and Marvin Jones, but always pretty productive there when those guys are actually playing snaps and healthy. So and like you said, I think Lawrence underperformed based on his talent. He's been very unlucky with drops. I think he has the most drops of any quarterback over to start his career over the past 3 years since he came into the league. So I like Thomas, and I think this is actually a good value just based on actual median projection, which is rare because rookies, I mean, I feel like, I guess it's because best ball is getting more and more popular, but a lot of these rookies are just being taken at their, as you said, at their ceilings, where it's going to be hard for a lot of them to really beat ADP, but yeah, I like Brian Thomas Jr. of the Jacksonville Jaguars. 10 picks in the book, 10 more to go. Just want to remind everyone once again, all of our fantasy football content this year is at FantasyLabs.com. Our award-winning rankings and projections, Kerner's tiers, and more, all available right now. And you could get $20 off our draft kit by using the promo code FLEX20 at FantasyLabs.com/flex. That's FLEX20 at FantasyLabs.com/flex for $20 off. FantasyLabs.com/flex, promo code FLEX20. All right, pick number 11, my sixth. I am going to stick in that 70s ADP and take a gamble here on a guy that I do think could win a starting role, if not week one, at some point, and that's Xavier Legette. Now, he's been banged up in camp, but he did return recently, so he really has to beat out Jonathan Mingo for a top 3 role. And I mean, I do think Mingo will be a little better this year. He couldn't have been any worse. I mean, he wasn't getting separation. It seemed like, I think he had one of those, he had like the Gunnar Olszewski of wide receiver plays where he like caught the ball. He was like inbounds, but he jumped out of bounds and caught the ball inbounds, but his feet were out. So, you know, like I think Olszewski did that on a punt once. Steelers fans know exactly what I'm talking about. So, you know, look it up on YouTube. But yeah, that's not crazy competition. Terrace Marshall might not even make the roster. Smith Marset will be a returner at best. And then David Moore is the other guy that, you know, journeyman Canales loves him. So he might stick, but he's more of a wide receiver 4 or 5 type situational guy. So Legette, I think at some point is going to assume that number 3 wide receiver role. And I do think Bryce Young will be a lot better this year. Adam Thielen's on the decline. You know, I do like Johnson this year. I think the Carolina offense is a little bit undervalued because I think that I still think they're going to pass a lot because I don't think they'll be a great team. But I think Young will be a lot better. I think, you know, when whoever are the top 3 at wide receiver, I think they'll be playing a lot of snaps, kind of similar to the Jags. So, yeah, give me Legette at wide receiver 74. It's kind of like a poor man's Thomas pick. Like, you know, the quarterback is bad. He's much less guaranteed to you know, have the job from week 1. He's been hurt in camp, but yeah, I do think the talent is there. And wide receiver 74, compared to some of these other guys in the 70s, you know, not too bad. Not too bad.
Yeah, well, his comp was people are calling him a rich man's Jonathan Mingo. So it's good that he's battling him out specifically for the number 3 role. But he's like a small, big guy, or he's 6'1", 221, but he's fast, very good after the catch. So very good skill set. And they traded up to get him just barely in the first round. So again, they value him. Maybe they think they made a mistake with Mingo, but either way, they want him to be you know, pivotal player in year 1.
Yeah, new regime. So I mean, they think who was it? Fitterer and Reich and then those guys. They think they made a bad.
I still think Mingo. You kind of hinted at Mingo could bounce back this year, but Legette is, you know, obviously this coaching staff guy, but love his skill set. Like, could absolutely hit as a rookie.
Yeah, the tough thing when you talk about a guy like Mingo and guys like that who struggle so much in year 1 is going to be hard for him to hold off a guy like Legette for the entire year because you're looking like he's going to be the X receiver, right? So he's going to have to line up on a line of scrimmage. It's tough if you don't have like athleticism and you can't, you know, beat press and separate. It's really tough. So, you know, Deontay Johnson's going to be the Z and you know, be able to move around, and Thielen's going to be in the slot. So that's why I'm betting on Legette, because I just think I like the athleticism compared to a guy like Mingo. Because if you don't have that and you're just tethered to the line of scrimmage, I mean, you're looking at like 5 to 8% targets per route run. It's just going to be miserable. So, yeah, at some point, I expect Legette to take over. But where are you going with your 6th pick, 12th overall of our 2024 Fantasy Flex rookie wide receiver draft?
I'm going to go with a bit of a longer shot here with Luke McCaffrey at wide receiver 83. Don't really love the talent, like nothing too special here. But this is a great landing spot just in terms of potential rookie value, because he could open up as the Commanders' number 3 wide receiver and potentially play as like a big slot receiver. He can win downfield. So, I wouldn't really target him in dynasty leagues. Again, I don't think that the long-term value is necessarily there, but I think this year, he could have a pretty high floor as the number 3 target. And Jaden Daniels looked excellent in his brief action this weekend. Jalen Daniels obviously has massive rushing upside, but he has a great arm. So I think he's going to boost these pass catchers as well. So if McCaffrey can win over, the number 3 starting role, which I think he should, he is De'Ami Brown, Zacchaeus, Jamison Crowder there. I think that he has an inside track for that. He should be able to clear this number, but again, he does have the risk of, potentially just finishing outside the top 100 completely. But I think just based on these guys available, he does have a fairly high floor at wide receiver. What is it, 83 right now?
Yeah, definitely was considering him, and there is a little bit of uncertainty right now, but I agree. I think he has a path to that number 3 role. The interesting wrinkle that I saw in the brief time that we saw the first team offense for the Commanders was that Jalen Dotson got some slot snaps, so they might try him in the slot, and maybe they do use like De'Ami Brown more out wide. So that could be interesting too. I know McCaffrey, he can play inside outside, right? Like so that doesn't necessarily affect him, but just something interesting I noticed, because Dotson was a guy who was expected to take a step forward last year and really regressed, if anything. So interested to kind of see how that Commander offense shakes out. But I agree. I think McCaffrey has the talent. And you're talking about De'Ami Brown, one of those guys that got drafted ahead of Amon-Ra St. Brown. I know when he lists his 16 guys that got drafted, he always mentions the De'Ami, I believe.
Tutu Atwell was one of them, right?
Yep, I believe so. But and then you're competing with like Olamide Zacchaeus.
Yep.
And besides that, it's like Byron Pringle.
I was gonna say, don't forget about Byron Pringle.
Yeah, I'm gonna forget about Byron Pringle. Yeah, but it's wide open there, and that's all you can ask for when you're kind of targeting these guys in best ball and whatnot. And I think another reason it kind of goes without, it's implied, but we haven't actually stated it, is because especially in best ball, people are taking a lot of the more buzzy wide receivers at their ceiling. Quite a few of those guys are going to bust, and it's going to be guys like this that are going to end up being the true value. So that's another reason why I find this personally valuable, is just to kind of talk through some of these guys and see, okay, who do we have as the best values here? What do we think of their chances to beat ADP? Because when I look at ADP in May, June, July, as I'm when I'm first drafting best ball teams, I'm like, are you kidding me? Like, all these guys are inside the top 50. Like, only so many rookies can finish top 50. It's not just going to be like the first, the exact order of ADP. So there's going to be some busts, and people are going to be able to take advantage with some of these guys. So with that said, I'm going to stick in the low 60s. So another one is kind of pushing it, but let's go with your boy Jalen Polk at wide receiver 68, I believe. Yeah, 68.
Yep.
And he's a guy with, I'd say, a non-zero chance at being the Patriots' number 1 wide receiver. Now, I don't know how much that would really be worth, but right now, I think the favorite is Demario Douglas in the slot to at least get the most catches. But he's a smaller guy, struggled to stay healthy. Also, a later round pick, so not necessarily a guy who is gonna just blow the doors off or anything. So there's definitely targets to be had here. Kendrick Bourne still working his way back from an injury. Doesn't look like he's gonna end up getting dealt for Ayuk, as looked like a potential possibility at one point. Looks like the Steelers are leading the way there. So really, you're talking about beating out an injured, older Kendrick Bourne, an unproven slot low A dot Demario Douglas, and then a whole bunch of journeymen like KJ Osborne, Jalen Rager, Tyquan Thornton, Keyshawn Boutte, and fellow rookie Javon Baker. So there is a path here for Polk to, even if he's not their number one receiver or number one target, to at least be a starter on this team sooner than later. So wide receiver 68 is rich. I do think that's somewhat pushing it there, considering we don't expect much from this Patriots offense. But sometimes you just got to go with the unknowns. And Polk is has a lot of draft pedigree. So it was kind of a surprise pick early on day 2 out of Washington. But you never know if maybe Drake May or even Milton ends up panning out. And Brissett has played well, in that Van Pelt offense as well. So there's a few different ways, I think, for Polk to sneak past that wide receiver 68 and maybe land in the 50s or 40s or even 30s if he really breaks out.
Yeah, I like it. And I think the fact that it does look like Ayuk will either go to Pittsburgh or stay in San Francisco, I think the Patriots are out. So that was kind of why I was holding back Polk a little bit in my rankings, was just the possibility that Ayuk ends up there. But with that gone, I have Polk just outside my top 60. So I'm with you. He has, a shot to be the number one target. Even if he's not, he should be a top 3 target in this offense. So I think he has a very high floor. And this is a rebuilding team, rebuilding season for them. So they'll want to give him every opportunity to shine as a rookie.
All right, we are 13 picks in. You're up to your 7th pick, 14th overall in our rookie wide receiver draft for 2024. Where are you going?
All right. Well, I'm going to just go for it here. I'm going to take Ladd McConkey at wide receiver 46. If I had to set a median projection on this, he's probably, his median finish will be like 53.5. But everybody else, I think at this point, I would project for like a negative finish to ADP. But I like his floor ceiling combo. I've said that, with the landing spot, there's so many available targets now with, Keenan Allen, Mike Williams, and Austin Eckler gone. I think that, McConkey will, be the starting slot receiver and take up, a lot of the Keenan Allen role. He has 4.39 speed, very good after the catch. You could watch him catch the ball, and he kind of, when he catches the ball, he knows where everybody is on the defense. So he has a good idea where he needs to go next to pick up extra yards after the catch. So I think he's going to be excellent from the slot. And there's some concern, maybe you can touch on this, but there's some concern he'll be off the field in 2 wide receiver sets with, Josh Palmer and either, DJ Chark or Quentin Johnson lined up in those sets. But, he's a good outside receiver. He could be in those sets this year. And, he's more than capable of winning deep. So I think he could take some of those Mike Williams targets and those Austin Eckler targets. So I just like how he fits in all 3 of those available targets on the Chargers. So I think he has a very high floor here and has a pretty high ceiling. So I'm okay taking him at wide receiver 46, knowing that, that's probably not his median, but just love his upside with this landing spot.
Yeah, there is some concern, but I think that's like you said, he's talented enough to play inside, outside. He may already be the Chargers' best receiver. I think Joshua Palmer and him are the 2 best. I think people are sleeping on Palmer too, but yeah. I think both of those, like you said, right around that wide receiver 50-ish range is where I have both of them ranked. So I don't hesitate to take either in fantasy drafts. McConkey's kind of, he had some height, but he's kind of settled in the low 40s, early 50s. So you can usually get him and not really overpay too much. But there's a chance, he's Justin Herbert's number 1 target. And even in a Greg Roman run heavy offense, that's still a very good quarterback. So, assuming he makes a full recovery from his, plantar fascia injury. Yeah. But I think this guy could be he could end the year and we're looking and he's averaging, 85, 90% snap rate per game. So there's not many guys that left that you could really say that for. So I like him and I think he's going to have a productive year 1. All right, speaking of going for it, since you went with McConkey at 46, I'll go Xavier Worthy at 47. I think it's time. I think that this was another guy who, we loved him, but he was just, the hype is so crazy that, if you just project it out, you still got Kelsey there. Rice is less and less likely to get suspended because the trial date isn't till December. So there's a lot, and Marquise Brown, he's gonna miss 4 to 6 weeks, but it's another guy to compete with. So he's competing with a lot, probably being taken closer to his ceiling. I mean, he was creeping into the low 30s in low to mid 30s in some best ball drafts. But at wide receiver 47, I think it's fair. He did play 3 of the 4 first team snaps with Mahomes in that preseason game, and it looks like they're gonna treat him like maybe even better than Rashee Rice, because Rashee Rice, remember first half of the year he was only averaging like 30, 40, 50% routes run rate per game. With Brown's injury especially, I think Worthy could hit the ground running, and that's what the Chiefs are really looking for, is a guy to stretch the field, and they weren't really getting that with Marquez Valdez-Scantling. So I think Worthy could average out 65, 70%, 75% routes run rate per game when it's all said and done, and that's very valuable in a Chiefs offense that is looking to make it a point to throw downfield more, and you're gonna have to pay attention to Kelsey underneath. You're gonna have to pay attention to Rashee Rice underneath. So and I love the 4.21 speed. As I said, it's an outlier, right? But it's not just that, because there's a lot of guys that most guys. So if you just go by wide receivers at the combine and sort by like the fastest guys ever, pretty much all of them are busts, right? Like you got John Ross, and there's a bunch of other guys that I'm not coming to me. But the thing about Worthy is you're putting outlier speed with outlier quarterback and outlier coach, play caller, schemer, play designer. It's just a whole bunch of outliers, and he's already playing with the first team. And Kansas City has a lot of wide receivers. So the fact that he's already, in there on the first team with Rashee Rice, with, he was with Marquise Brown. Brown only lasted a snap, got hurt in his first catch. But, I think that was very encouraging. So just like McConkey, I think Worthy should be in for a very productive year one in this mid to low 40s ADP range.
Yeah, the only concern is, he might be a little too one-dimensional as a rookie, but he has Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid behind him, which is going to maximize his potential. He could be streaky. He could be like a Gabe Davis type, but remember, Gabe Davis went like wide receiver 24, and he finished like wide receiver 25, and everybody was like, bust, because he was just so inconsistent week to week. But at the end of the year, those spiked weeks will add up. So just thinking in terms of this contest, even if he's streaky, those big weeks will push him up, and he could easily finish in the top 50 and provide you with a plus ADP here.
I mean, people were taking Jamison Williams off missing 6 games around this ADP at one point. So give me Xavier Worthy, a healthy Xavier Worthy all day. All right, so we are 15 picks deep. We're up to pick number 16. It's your 8th of the rookie wide receiver draft for 2024. What are you doing?
All right. Well, I'm going to go big or go home here. I'm going to take Ricky Pearsall at wide receiver 75. This is probably the widest range of outcomes of anybody available, or anybody that we took today. But this obviously depends on what the hell happens with Brandon Ayuk, because if Ayuk stays, this is a disaster of a pick. And he'll probably finish outside the top 90, I would say. But if they do accept the trade with the Steelers, I don't know who they would get in return. It might just be picks, who knows? But Pearsall could be, a starting wide receiver for the 49ers this year. And I think that would be phenomenal. He's a very, very good route runner, and he's going to be in the most efficient offense in the league. So, Shanahan's going to scheme him up to be open a ton. But this depends on Ayuk. If Ayuk stays, even an injury to Ayuk, Debo or McCaffrey or Kittle even, might get him some more playing time. But
Jennings.
Oh,
Jennings too.
Jennings as well.
Yeah.
This is just tough because the Niners don't use many 3 wide receiver sets. So if Ayuk stays, it's going to be very tough for Pearsall to hit. But again, I'm kind of just banking on, I would say it's a 50-50 chance right now that Ayuk gets traded. So, I'm just taking a big gamble here and, hopefully it pays off.
Yeah, it's kind of like Legette, where it's really the guy. He has a path, but he's just been hurt too. That's really the issue. It's because I think if he was healthy, having the draft pedigree that he had, he could at least challenge Jennings. I don't think he would overtake him right away, because Jennings, they love him as a blocker, they love him in the clutch. He obviously had the big Super Bowl, but at least he would be kind of like Burton with Yosevach and those guys, where it's like, all right, he's there. Even if he's not ahead on the depth chart, he is, he's challenging, but he hasn't really gotten a challenge. So he kind of has a late start. So that's really the only issue with him. But we've seen that before and it's worked out. I mean, I think, I want to say, Terry McLaurin, his rookie year, I believe missed most of camp. And so we really didn't see him until I think it was week 2 of his rookie year. And then he just hit the ground running. So if Ayuk is gone, there's going to be a huge hole. Right now, I think it's Chris Conley that's the favorite for snaps if Ayuk is gone, and that tells you all you need to know about the path, because Chris Conley, with all due respect, I know these former chief wide receivers have been blowing up at other spots like Demarcus Robinson, but Chris Conley shouldn't be that hard to beat out for a guy with first round pedigree.
You would think so, but this is Shanahan we're talking about. Just
true.
A few years ago, remember, it was Brandon Ayuk was the one that was in the doghouse, and he was playing games with Ayuk, and we knew how good Ayuk could be. Yeah, so I fully accept the basement floor that Pearsall provides, where he could easily finish outside the top 100 or, top 60, something like that. So, again, wide range of outcomes. I never really trust Shanahan in these situations, but I think he said, they took him in the first round. Very, good route runner. I think even though he's missing time right now, he'll pick up the offense very quickly. And it's an amazing offense. He's going to be open a ton if he does crack the starting lineup. So just, again, a guy with just an insane wide range of outcomes right now.
Yeah. I was kind of trying to avoid him just because, I mean, I had him. I think he's been overvalued all offseason. Even before all this Ayuk trade stuff, like it was like he's still probably gonna start the year no better than the number 4, and I don't know, you know what I mean? That was like his ceiling, but everyone was taking him like he was just like, oh yeah, he's the number 3 receiver already. But with the injury, it kind of scared me off. But now with this Ayuk trade potentially happening again, and you think Pearsall is he did miss the first preseason game, which does suck now because there's only 3, but
yes,
I think there's at some point if Ayuk is gone and you're battling Chris Conley and Jacob Cowing and Jennings even, you're gonna get a chance. So you would think. So yeah, I don't mind it here. Wish his ADP fell a little more, but like I said, some of these guys in the 70s just got to make do. We're up to the last few picks in this draft. I'll go at 17 with Keon Coleman, wide receiver 49. Another one where loved him all offseason, but the ADP just sneaking up. But you know what? I did like what I saw out of Coleman. Did get a bunch of first-team snaps with the Bills offense. Got, I think, an end zone target or 2 as well. So, that's always good to see. I think Kincaid is a guy who has the massive upside. Like here, I think he has that like George Kittle year 2, 1,400 yard type upside. But, you're talking about Khalil Shakir, who is a good receiver, but I don't know if he has that like alpha number 1, upside. Like, I think he's going to be a very solid guy, be on the field 75, 80% of the time, and catch 3-4 balls a game. But Coleman, I think outside shot playing with Josh Allen with 2,500 yards and all these touchdowns vacated by Diggs and Diggs and Gabe Davis. I think Coleman has an outside shot at 8 to 10 touchdowns. I think he has an outside shot, or not even outside. I think he has a decent shot at 1,000 yards, and looks like he's going to get snaps on the outside. I remember you thought he was going to be more like a Marcus Colston at one point, right? Like a big slot type guy, but it looks like because they got Samuel and Shakir.
Yeah, they already have plenty of slot receivers, so
yeah, so they're playing him at X, and Marquez Valdez-Scantling, who's on the roster bubble, and Mac Hollins are the competition. So again, you got to always look at the path, and he's already probably a day one starter, and they were willing to. Gabe Davis, even when they had, I think it was Manny Sanders, Diggs, and who was it, John Brown, Beasley, one of those guys. Like they had a big three, and Gabe Davis even got a lot of action even his rookie year. So I think Coleman, with all over 2,000 yards vacated, this team looking for a new number one receiver. I think there's a lot of upside here. And yeah, he played played 93% out wide, just 7% in the slot of his 13 routes in the first preseason game. So yeah, I'm all for it. Florida State, early second round pick, 33rd overall. He's only 21, just turned 21 in May. So yeah, he could be getting better too. That's another bonus that we don't talk about with all these guys. But rare you see a guy who could start for one of the best offenses in the league at age 21. So yeah, sign me up.
Yeah, he has a wide range of outcomes. Again, he could be Josh Allen's top target, or he could be like a Treylon Burks, Jonathan Mingo.
Yep.
Where it was a great landing spot. What happened? Khalil Shakir or Curtis Samuel could step up. I agree. Dalton Kincaid will be likely the top target. But either way, like it's wide open. So he's probably worth the gamble here in drafts in this contest. Wide range of outcomes, but I don't mind taking him here.
Yeah, I mean it's either him or you could go up and it's like you got no room to go up, or you could go down and now you're back in that So I'm interested to see where you go here. You got two more and I got one more, so it's just pick 18 overall in our 2024 rookie wide receiver draft.
I'm going a little bit higher, not near the top 10 high here, but I'm taking Odunze at wide receiver 42. Or 39. Okay, it's been bouncing around. 39. Again, a bit high. This is mainly a bet on talent, because any other draft class, he could have easily been the top receiver in this class. But he's kind of overlooked with Marvin Harrison Jr. and Malik Nabers just being elite from the get-go. But he's kind of a similar spot situation as CeeDee Lamb a few years ago, or Jackson Smith-Njigba last year, where he has the talent to be a number one receiver, but just the landing spot, he's going to be number 3 at best. But if either DJ Moore or Keenan Allen miss time this year, he's going to instantly step up and be a top 2 target in this offense. So I think he does have a fairly high ceiling as a rookie. And worst case scenario is he's a top 3 receiver in this offense. And I think this is also a way to invest in, just Caleb Williams being phenomenal as a rookie. If Williams really hits the ground running, which after his week 1 performance in preseason, it does look like that will be the case, that's going to raise everybody's projection in this offense. So that's kind of what I'm doing here. I think, he's a guy I'm more than willing to kind of roll the dice a bit. His ADP makes it tough to gain too much in this specific contest, but absolutely betting on talent here with Odunze at wide receiver 39.
Yeah, I like that pick. I think from a game theory perspective, it makes a ton of sense because he's probably not going to finish too much lower than he's going to probably not finish outside the top 50 or 60. So even if you take a loss,
he stays healthy.
It shouldn't be a huge loss, but he does have that upside. If one of those guys goes down, or maybe, even if they don't, he could also just be.
Yep.
He is a very, very good wide receiver. Kind of along those same lines, it's going to get a little sticky here, but I'm going to go Malik Nabers, wide receiver 25, and I'm just kind of hoping to hold serve here. But there's always that outside chance that he's just as advertised and just kind of like the Odell Beckham, Eli Manning's Odell Beckham, where He just dominates targets and, creates, 5, 6, 7 big plays, 4, 5, 6 of them go for touchdowns. So I know he had a little ankle injury, but it doesn't seem serious. He's on track for week 1. And another guy where you look at the guys around him, I mean, he's competing with the only guy who's really a threat for a high target rate is Wan'Dale Robinson, but he's mostly a low ADOT guy. And then, you got Slayton, who they're trying to phase out. Jalen Hyatt's it's kind of a low percentage deep route runner. And then Waller retired, so you're looking at a rookie, probably Theo Johnson at tight end, or just a black hole and Daniel Bellinger and Tyree Jackson, Lawrence Cager, whoever they end up trotting out there. My point is there's an outside chance that Nabers leads the league in targets, because remember what Joe Shane, the GM of the Giants, said on that Hard Knocks. He's like, I'm not paying Daniel Jones $40 million to hand off to a $12 million running back in Saquon. So, the fact that they go out and they get Nabers and, they kind of go bargain hunting for a journeyman in Singletary, and Tyrone Tracy, who their day 3 promising running back, just got hurt. So it's going to be, looks like the Singletary and Eric Gray show in the backfield. So yeah, Malik Nabers could get 160 targets if the defense is bad and the Giants throw the ball around a lot because they're trailing. So yeah, I'll take Nabers at 25, but I'm more so hoping to just hold serve and not finish too much lower than this realistically. Yeah. But there is a path to wide receiver 1 outcome just based on the talent and the situation.
Yeah, he has top 10 upside. The only reason he probably won't is because of Daniel Jones, but he has all the talent in the world to finish in the top 10.
Final pick.
All right, I'm going to go with Malachi Corley of the Jets. I get him at wide receiver 82. He's kind of more of a gadget player. He sort of needs design touches, and he's a yards after catch specialist, sort of like a Curtis Samuel, Wan'Dale Robinson, Rondale Moore type of receiver. But, he could develop into a slot receiver in year 1, which would be, the Randall Cobb role with Aaron Rodgers. So I think that's his upside as a rookie. And the Jets depth chart certainly sets that up as a possibility. He's competing with Xavier Gibson and Allen Lazard for the number 3 role in this offense. So I think that there's a realistic path where he could be in the starting lineup with Aaron Rodgers, hopefully under center this season. So, I think he certainly has a low floor, but at wide receiver 82, I think he has a shot to pass up the ADP here. And either way, kind of have some sort of design role for him specifically within this offense.
Yeah, it is getting a little crowded. Apparently Lazard has been better this offseason, and he can play the slot. But yeah, I mean, at number 82, maybe he'll end up having like Jeremy Curley? Is that who the Jets had about a decade and a half ago? Had a pretty decent couple of years in there as a slot receiver.
Yeah.
I think that's in the range of outcomes there, especially if Williams is kind of he's really tough because we don't know where he's at. I know he got off the PUP list, I believe. So I guess he's starting to ramp up. So that makes things interesting. But if he's good, then now all of Lazard's snaps, or a lot of them, would end up coming in the slot probably, and that would kind of make it tougher for Corley. But you're talking about Allen Lazard and Mike Williams, who struggled with injury. So there's definitely an opening, and Aaron Rodgers loves to throw it quick and short. As he's advanced age, he'll take that quick short throw all day. Remember his favorite, his bestie, Randall Cobb. So maybe that's who that is. Malachi Corley, Aaron Rodgers' new Randall Cobb.
That's the hope.
Here first. All right, there you go. 20 picks, rookie wide receivers, 2024. I'll recap the picks one more time. I started off Jordan Whittington, and I'll give the ADP. So we're going to grade this versus ADP. So if he's undrafted by ADP, gets a 111. because we have 110 wide receivers with an ADP using the best ball 10 ADP over the past 2 weeks. And we just go by his actual finish in half point PPR. So Jordan Whittington of the Rams was my first pick, wide receiver 111. Sean went Jermaine Burton of the Bengals at wide receiver 80. I went Malik Washington of the Dolphins at wide receiver 111 again. Jalen McMillan went Sean of the Bucks at wide receiver 88. I went Casey Washington of the Falcons, another 111. Sean went Johnny Wilson of the Eagles, a 111. I went Anthony Gould of the Colts at 111. Sean went Troy Franklin of the Broncos at 73. I went Adonai Mitchell of the Indianapolis Colts, wide receiver 66 ADP. That was the 9th overall pick. And then Sean rounded out the top 10 with Brian Thomas Jr. of the Jags, wide receiver 48. The back half, I went Xavier Legette of the Panthers, wide receiver 74. Sean went Luke McCaffrey, wide receiver 83. He's on the Commanders. Then I went Jalen Polk, wide receiver 68. Sean Lad McConkey, wide receiver 46. I went Xavier Worthy of the Chiefs at wide receiver 47. Sean went Ricky Pearsall of the Niners at 75. Then I went Keon Coleman of the Bills at 49. Sean went Odunze of the Bears at 39. And then my last pick, Malik Nabers of the Giants at 25. And Sean goes Malachi Corley of the Jets at 82. So no one dared touch Marvin Harrison at wide receiver 11. If I had one more pick, I would have just taken him and tried to hold serve.
Yeah,
I do have him like wide receiver 13 or 14.
He's going to be phenomenal, but that's tough needing a top 10 finish to get anything in this. But yeah, I was thinking about that too.
Yeah, if we kept going, because it was basically him, I think Javon Baker at 87, and then Tez Walker of the Baker of the Patriots, and then Tez Walker of the Ravens, another guy who was buried at least in week 1 of the preseason on the depth chart. So yeah, those guys didn't touch those guys, but hopefully people out there found this useful, especially once we started talking through the guys, in the 70s and 60s and 40s. Because those guys are going to, some of those guys are going to smash it. Some of those guys are going to be major busts. So I'll see how it goes. But that's going to do it for the Fantasy Flex wide receiver rookie draft for 2024. Be sure to check out FantasyLabs.com for all of our fantasy football projections, rankings, and content. And you could use code FLEX20 for $20 off right now at FantasyLabs.com/flex. That's FLEX20, the promo code at FantasyLabs.com/flex for $20 off. You can find Sean on X at @_oddsmaker. I'm at Chris Raybon. We're at those same handles on the free award-winning Action Network app, where Sean's out here betting 36 preseason props or whatever it is.
Not enough, in my opinion.
So until next time, let's get this money.